It's hard to fix problems when you don't have a clear picture of what's wrong. That's where Hamilton's Housing and Homelessness Dashboard comes in. With us now to explain how it's being used, from the Hammer, Justin Chandler, who covers Hamilton Niagara for Ontario Hubs. Hey, Justin.
Hey there.
All right, so let's take a step back before we get into this dashboard. Hoping you can sort of tell us generally, what's the state of housing in Hamilton right now?
Well, it's real expensive, I think is probably the best way to put it. One of my friends is a reporter at the Hamilton Spectator, and she just put out a piece just a couple of weeks back saying that, for people in the city, only something like 12% of apartments are affordable if you're making under 45,000, which is the median income for a single household in Hamilton is right around 40,000. So you can imagine there are a lot of people in the city who just can't afford rent, who can't find a good place to live. The asking price for a one-bedroom rent now, the average according to rentals.ca, is pushed up over $1,700 a month. So really just Hamilton is not the affordable place that it used to be.
All right, before we look at some specific numbers, what does the Hamilton Housing and Homelessness Dashboard help determine?
So the Hamilton and Homelessness Housing Dashboard, the way that this works is it's data put up by the city. And this is so that the public can look at this, advocates can look at this, decision makers can look at it. And it's a way of showing if the city's meeting need. So it shows that, how many people in the city are unhoused. It shows how many people are waiting for affordable housing. What is the average actual rent that people are paying? So it's really a way of tracking all this information and presenting it.
All right, so let's dig into the numbers. We have a graphic here that shows what a dashboard would look like. As of December 2022, 142 people became newly homeless, while 336 people moved into housing or timed out of the system. 1,509 people were actively unhoused, but the shelter bed capacity sits at 515, and people housed through city-funded programs was 345. I want to get to that top little stat there, monthly inflow and outflow. Explain a little more about that.
Yes, and I'll just say apologies for the wind in the background. It's getting pretty blustery over here in the Hammer. So inflow means the number of people that are coming into contact with the housing homelessness system. Outflow means people who are leaving contact. So generally, what you want is high outflow and low inflow. So outflow could mean that somebody has been housed, maybe they're receiving a housing supplement, or it also might mean that in the last 3 months, they haven't been in contact with the shelter or the housing system, so that maybe just city staff haven't heard from them in a while. So it might not mean that they, have an apartment, but maybe they're staying with a friend or something like that.
Now, from that data set, it looks like actively unhoused people far outnumber the shelter beds available, or the capacity rather. What does that mean for people who are looking for shelter in that city?
It unfortunately means that a lot of people are out of luck. It means that someone might get to a shelter and it's full. It means that warming centers, which we've talked about on the show before, have become really important because people need a place to stay overnight. However, a lot of warming centers are also filling up, so people will have to take turns in order to get in there. Really, it means that as a city, we're not meeting the need. We don't have enough space and enough shelter for all the people who need it.
And lastly, there was about 345 people accessing city-funded programs. Give us a sense of what that number actually means.
Right. So this could be, something like shelter, drop-in, rent supplements, just people who are getting some sort of assistance from the city in order to be housed.
All right. Now, behind those numbers are people who are looking for housing and those who are trying to find those people housing as well. What did homelessness policy and programs manager for the city of Hamilton tell you about sort of that aspect?
Yes, what Nadia Zelisko was saying is that really it's important to remember that these statistics represent people. And that's just, I think, a good thing to keep in mind when we're talking about this. You might see, this number's going down or this number's going up, but then you think it represents that many hundreds of our neighbors. And that's a really important thing to keep in mind whenever we're talking about housing and affordability, is that this is, people who maybe cannot afford a place to live. And it's tracking their interactions with a system. So this is a very human-based system, and we need to keep that in mind. These numbers represent need.
Do we have an understanding of how the city of Hamilton will react to said numbers if the inflow and the outflow are sort of, at capacity when we're looking at the number of shelter beds? Does the city respond to these numbers, or is this simply looked at as a monitoring system?
The city is trying to respond to these. There's recognition. You listen to council meetings and talk about homelessness programs, and there is recognition at an official level in the city that we can't meet everybody's needs. Like they're not debating these numbers. So it's part monitoring, but it's also part of saying what can we do to help. The thing, of course, that it then comes to is what are we willing to do? And just because the numbers are showing this, there also has to be political will in order for changes to happen. And there's a lot of people in the city who would say we're doing everything we can, and there's a lot of people looking at it also who would say no, you're not, and there's more that we could be doing. So there's certainly debate there.
Now, Nadia, the expert you spoke to, also mentioned that there is a systemic overrepresentation of Indigenous people looking for housing. How is that being addressed in the city of Hamilton as well?
Yeah, so this is, that's a big question, right? It could almost be its own stories. Mm-hmm. But as far as what I can say just for now is that there is work with Indigenous leaders in the city, working with the city in order to apportion resources and direct programs. Nadia Zelisko was telling me how there's examples of how the city's worked with leaders to better survey people and actually identify the scope of this overrepresentation, finding that something like 23% of unhoused people are Indigenous, even though that's about 3% of the city's population. And then there are a lot of groups and advocates who are trying to push to better help people and address this problem. And yeah, there's plenty of work that certainly needs to keep going on there. And that's something that community members in the city are regularly saying is that this is a big problem. And that aspect of it is a problem that we need to keep looking at too.
A really important story. Justin Chandler, thank you so much for your reporting and joining us on the program tonight.
Take care.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.